A legendary weekend in the Lou. PGA Tour champions compete in the Stifel Charity Classic, presented by Compliance Solutions, September 4th through 7th. And see O.A.R. Perform live with your Friday ticket. Visit StifelCharityClassic.com today.
There we are. It's the Randy Karraker Show on STL Sports Central. Matthew Rocchio, Randy Karraker, great to have you with us. Bernie is going to be with us at the bottom of the hour, as he is on Fridays. That'll be fun, and we'll have some frivolity there. Cards and Jonkies tonight and tomorrow, and on Sunday, the most iconic franchise in baseball. Love them or hate them, they are the franchise that has 27 championships. And they're New York, and they play New York after they win games. Did you know that they used to play it after every game, and then they changed this year, so now they only play New York, the theme from New York by Frank Sinatra after wins.
That's fair. I don't like that because I love Frank Sinatra, and I don't like I really love that song. I don't like them owning it, but I mean, they're the Yankees. What are you going to do?
Yeah, really. An off day yesterday for the Cardinals, and so tonight you've got Pallante going. And he's going against the Yankees, who lead Major League Baseball in runs per game. This might not be a bad time to start your little piggyback idea.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering if something rough tonight just finally starts the ball down the hill for the Cardinals, because Pallante's been struggling. We keep talking about it. We know that Liberatore's already kind of hit that limit. Pallante's going to get close to that limit. Hasn't hit it yet, but he's been struggling at times. And again, a very tough lineup for him to go against. So maybe you don't overreact to it, but this would be, the third or fourth rough start not in a row, but in the last 5 or 6 for Andre Pallante. So yeah, if he has a rough one tonight, I feel like come Monday, once we get through Gray and Miklasz and move on to the next series, I think we're going to see some kind of shift of something in the rotation to help not only Pallante, but more so Liberatore as well.
Okay. If Pallante would get knocked out tonight, let's say he goes 2 2/3. He gets knocked out in the third inning, and it's still kind of a game. Like you're down 3-0 or 4-0. And Luis Gil is going for the Yankees, and he's got a 7 ERA in his 2 starts. So you still think you're in the game, and he's gone 2 1/3. He's gone 2 2/3. You need 2 1/3. Who are you going to bring in? Who's your leverage guy? So probably not Alcala, right?
No,
probably not Ryan. Maybe Ryan Fernandez. Granillo, he could do it. Leahy did it just 2 days ago, so I don't know if maybe Leahy would be ready on 1 day's rest to give you 2 1/3. Otherwise, you've got Munoz, you've got Riley O'Brien, you've got JoJo, and you've got Swanson. So you need 2 1/3. Who are you asking to give you that 2 1/3?
So just looking at some previous gaps for Leahy, last time he went an inning in 2/3, they gave him 4 days before he pitched again from the Padres to the Dodgers. Mm-hmm. From the Dodgers, he went 2 2/3. They gave him 5 days till he pitched again against Colorado. He went 2 1/3, and they gave him 2 days rest before he pitched an inning against the Rockies 2 days later. So based on just that short little thing, I'll say that it's not Leahy, because if he is available tonight, it will only be for an inning in a 7th, 8th, or I guess emergency 9th situation. So Swanson, when did he go last? Let me double check the Swanson, because he's obviously been fantastic for them. Let me double check the Swanson game log, make sure I'm not taxing him.
Yeah. Okay. Do the Cardinals even have another starter to replace Libby or Pallante? Bring up Matthews, I guess. Matthews went 3 innings in his last start at Memphis. They don't really have another guy. The depth is, without question, being tested right now. I would think that the next guy, if you would have an injury, and this is kind of why I think they'll keep Pallante going, because Leahy is your only other real option here, and that's kind of an opener. That's a two inning, at most 3 inning guy.
I'll say this right now. Today could be a big proof of concept kind of thing. Not only for the starters, we just talked about Pallante and Liberatore. If Pallante struggles again, do you really get things going on the piggyback? But Swanson went 3 innings on the 12th. So could he give them 2 3 days later? I think that's a good proof of concept in his ability to be the, I know it's cliche here, but you're Andrew Miller, consistent long reliever, high leverage guy you can put for 3 innings at a time if you really need him. I think Swanson I think that's a good, if he can give me that today, him giving me 5 innings in a 4-day span, that's one hell of a weapon.
Yeah, it is. And maybe Pallante will give you, I think I'm going worst case scenario there.
I think we should go worst case scenario just because he's really struggled. He's going up against a good offense. And everything we've seen from him lately tells us that unless he gets a rest or they change something, it's not going to get better.
Mm-hmm. Will Sutton, watch the Cardinals sweep the Yankees. That would not be something that I would expect. Yankees, though, they were 35-20, and they've gone since they were 35-20. I think they've gone like 29-37 or something like that. They've gone from a 7-game lead in the AL East to battling for a wild card spot in the American League.
Michael Jager says the way these teams are playing this weekend should be hilarious.
Okay, so you arguably have the 2 most iconic franchises, right? The one in the American League, and you can argue Dodgers fairly and reasonably, and I won't argue if you want to say the Dodgers are the most iconic franchise in the National League, although the Cardinals do have an extra world championship over them. But let's say 2 of the 3 most iconic franchises in baseball, and you're not wrong about how this could be hilarious. Now, the Yankees have a distressing tendency to give games away because of their bad defense. As great as their offense is, and they've had injuries, obviously, to their rotation, but their defense has been kind of abysmal. And if the Cardinals just play clean baseball, they got a chance to win.
Yeah, I think so, because you've seen, if you haven't tapped in, by the way, just know that there's no Yankees have been earning their stripes over the last month and a half of baseball. Jeter and A.R. have been pissy about them very publicly on the broadcasts. Not a lot of happiness going around the Bronx right now with the Bombers.
No, Bubs. Oh man, Judge and company are going to eat Pallante up like BOGO pasta at Olive Garden. Love the Olive Garden. Breadsticks are to die for. But right next door to our studio here, we've got Pasta House. And if you're out of state and don't have Pasta House, next time you're in the Lou, give it a try, because number one, they have fabulous salad. The Pasta House salad is fantastic. But I think Mondays it might be buy one, get one free pasta over at the Pasta House, and it's fantastic.
Randy, how am I supposed to not get fat by eating BOGO pasta at Pasta House and then going to Fenton Bar and Grill for dinner for their
there you go.
So like, what am I supposed to do on Mondays now?
I think the wings might be fat free.
Oh, you think the double fried wings are fat free?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. Terrell Whitener, morning, gentlemen. Cards Yankees should be fun this weekend. Get to see a couple of the games as they are national games. Yeah, Jimmy the Cat Hayes and company get a little bit of a day off on Saturday. They earned it.
Absolutely, yeah. And Chip will probably be working on his house, right?
Oh, he's got a lot of boxes. Just so many boxes. You know what? Can I tangent here?
Go ahead.
We got a little bit of a response to one of the chip clips. Oh, I like that we posted on the X from the STL Sports Central. The one talking about Nick Markakis, because he brought up the leadership factor of a player like Markakis that brought to the Braves, and a lot of people didn't see his point there, because last year there was a push for more leadership, and you had guys like Wilson, and you had Goldy, and you had Gibson, and you had Lynn, and you had Carpenter, and they didn't win a lot because of the leadership. And so I think there was a lot of people who reacted to that as saying, I don't care if the Cardinals bring in leaders, I just want them to bring in talent. And it was, what do you think to the because that we did get a lot of responses to that, and it was all kind of collectively in that oeuvre. And I know Brendan Schaefer got on Twitter and had a back and forth with a couple of people as well. What were your thoughts on the criticisms and kind of back and forth in that conversation?
I'm a big believer in leadership for any young sports team. I think it's valuable. When you talk to players, they talk about how valuable it is, and I have a tendency to trust them more than people that didn't play the game. Not that I don't trust you, but I just, if I'm talking to Brad Thompson or a Jason Isringhausen or a Brian Jordan or a Ray Langford, I just have a tendency to trust those guys because of what they have been through. And I don't think there's any question that leadership makes a difference. And if we go back to the 2000 Cardinals team, and I talk about that bench a lot that had Davis and Dunston and wound up getting Will Clark, and the group that succeeded after them, give those guys a ton of credit for helping them learn how to win. There's a lot to be said for having somebody like that, in my opinion. And I can see why you think it's all about talent, and mostly it is about talent, but having the guys that have been through the wars and can help you get through the wars makes a huge difference. For example, before the playoffs started in 2006, the Cardinals, remember, had been swept in the World Series in 2004. Before the playoffs started in 2006, the veteran guys, and this was Pujols, Edmonds, Roland, all those guys that have been around for 2004, Carp, they went to the kids and they said, hey, make sure that you slow this down because it happens in a hurry. And we didn't know because a couple of years ago, we hadn't been to the World Series. But make sure you breathe and you take this all in because everything in the postseason happens in a hurry and it's super intense. Well, the 2004 team didn't have the advantage of people that have been through the World Series before. And they had Reggie Sanders, but they didn't have a group of people coming to them or one person saying, here's how you go through it. And so I thought that made a huge, and the people on the team, the 2006 team, said that made a big difference for them. So I think it is a big deal.
You know what? I don't know if you could have found a better example to couch that than talking about the difference in 2004 and 2006's leadership, and also and then juxtaposing that with the difference in the talent level. A team that had the MV3 a few years later commented that they didn't have enough leadership and veteran mentality on the 2004 team, and they were the MV3. Like that, right, yeah. That's insane to me. Like, but I think it gives it some important bits of context. Not every team's the same, but to say that for that team to realize they didn't have the leadership they needed to push, that says a lot, I think.
And I think this is one of the big problems with baseball now is that because you have the haves and the have-nots in clubhouses, you have the guys that are making $35 million, you have the guys that are making $25 million, you have the guys that are making $18 million. That's Arenado, that's Gray, that's Miklasz. And then you have the guys like Pallante that's making $1 million or $750, and the guys like McGreevy and the guys like Liberatore, but you don't have the middle class. A guy like, if you go back, even though he didn't perform well for the Cardinals, if you go into the Cardinal clubhouse today and ask players what Brandon Crawford did for them, he was a really important guy for a lot of these players. Now they haven't won yet, but he was able to help them kind of bridge that gap from being a really inexperienced player to being experienced and being able to do, being able to approach things mentally from a different perspective. And I think that's the biggest thing. As Yogi said, 90% of this game is half mental. And I think you do need players that are able to impart to young players what it takes to win and how to approach your job.
Fair enough. I wanted to get that in because I like that we put out our clips, and I like when people get interactive with the clips. And that one was one people were really running with. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
But what was the prevailing sentiment there?
It's
not a big deal.
Is essentially their point was, if leadership was such a big deal, why didn't it make a difference bringing all those guys in? Carpenter, Gibson, why did that not make a deal? And why does a guy who's a future Hall of Famer, Nolan Arenado, not bring that to the team already? Those were the two prevailing sentiments.
Okay, let's start with Arenado. Just because you're a veteran and you've been around, it doesn't make you a leader. There is a leadership trait that the great leaders have. And Nolan Arenado, while a great player who provides great example, is just not a guy that leads. And some people have that ability. Now, with that group last year, so you had Mason Wynn as a rookie. You had Nado in decline. You had Goldschmidt in decline. You had literally Gibson and Lynn in their final years in the major leagues. So you've got these guys, but they're playing a lot. And the team, like you had Walker up and down. I don't even remember who the center fielder was last year. It was Scott at the beginning. Did they use Newton?
Michael Ciani.
Ciani. So yeah, Ciani, he's not the most talented offensive performer. So I think there were talent issues that team dealt with. And they did win 83 games, by the way.
And I guess their reaction would be the solve for that team getting better wasn't getting better leaders, was getting more talent.
Yeah, right.
And so their point is I don't care about getting a guy like Markakis who can be a leader. I care about the Cardinals adding more talent.
Well,
was the also general.
Here's the thing. Like I'll use the worst leader in the history of sports, Jeff George, as an example here. I don't know if he is the worst leader. I'm just going to throw it out there as a possibility. But if you have Jeff George as your quarterback, you need to have leadership somewhere on your team. You can have super talented guys. You need to have super talented guys, but you also need to have leadership. You need to have both. So if you're not going to have super talented guys throughout, like leadership can come from backup players. I mentioned now Will Clark, when he came here, McGuire was hurt, but people like Sean Dunston and Eric Davis, Thomas Howard, those were really good, nice support players. And they didn't start all the time. They weren't getting the lion's share of the at-bats, but they were providing advice to the youngsters. And I think that's the big thing, especially when you have a young team. I think it's valuable to have a guy like that. When the Miami Marlins won the World Series in 2003, was that I think it was 2003 when they got Darren Dalton. Darren Dalton came in and provided them a tremendous amount of the late great Darren Dalton, great leader, and he came from Philadelphia and provided them a tremendous amount of leadership. And people on that team gave him a ton of credit for coming in and almost right off the bat, kind of like Will Clark here, being a guy that accepted a leadership role, had been through the wars with the '93 Phillies. Yeah, and it was the 97 Marlins, not the 2003 Marlins. But he showed up and knew what it was like to win, and that team needed that.
Terrell Whitener, Randy, I've heard Will Clark say that if he didn't play for the Giants, who would he want to play for? And he said the Cardinals. Would there be any value in a guy like that visiting spring training?
He's already with the Giants. He's being paid. He's a consultant with. I think he might be Buster Posey's special assistant or something like Buster Posey.
We have one of those.
Yadier Molina. But yes, it's valuable to have a guy like that. But he is in the employ of the Giants. As a matter of fact, when they got Devers, they wanted Will Clark to work with Devers, and Will Clark showed up on the field and Devers didn't. So, and I don't know if they ever got together, but Will Clark is around that ball club every day.
Getting more from this leadership and talent. I like this from Rally Squirrel. Doing a little math here, but I like it. Talent is more important than leadership when it comes to winning percentage, but leadership plus talent equals championship potential. Talent minus leadership equals a disappointment, and leadership minus talent equals floundering. Well, I like that. Those are good equations there, Rally Squirrel. Good job.
Okay, and the best thing that you can have is a talented leader. Do the Blues win the Stanley Cup in 2019 if they don't bring in Ryan O'Reilly?
No.
Who was a great leader on that team, but was also a great, talented player. Do the Rams win the Super Bowl? Now, this is one that if you ask the players, they say no. Do the Rams win the Super Bowl if you don't sign Trent Green? They say no, that you don't, because the day after Trent Green had his press conference to sign here as a free agent, he was in the weight room working with everybody and leading by example. Another guy that did that with that Rams team was Adam Timmerman.
Mm-hmm.
He showed up and showed leadership, and it's just showing people what it takes to win.
Cole Bass's left foot says, "Whoa. Jeff George led the line into a number 5 ranking. Come on, Randy."
I'm not saying they must have had some great leadership there.
Mama says Jay Cutler would have been the worst leader as a quarterback.
Yeah, that's a good one. Do they still have the Smoking Jay Cutler page?
Oh, it's out there somewhere.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. Most punchable face in the history of sports. For me, it's got to be Jay Cutler.
Does it have to be an athlete?
No, it could be Jerry Jones.
Oh no, it's Kevin Demoff.
Oh, that's another good one. Okay, good call here.
I mean, that's
so most punchable face
answer in the world
in sports, and it doesn't have to be a player. It can be Kevin Demoff. It could be Jerry Jones. But I think from an athletic perspective, let me think about this.
The problem with punching Jerry Jones is just like the cloud of dust that you're gonna have to wade through after you follow through. It's just gonna be.
Yeah, that's true. You know who had
rough?
Okay, and I don't know if this guy was punchable or not, but let me give you a couple of hockey guys. Claude Lemieux, definitely punchable, right? But how about Mark Recchi? Mark Recchi had like one of the most punchable faces. Google Mark Recchi's face.
How do you spell Recchi?
Recchi.
Ecchi.
Nick Cousins for sure. That's from Devin Milner. Two-Pack Pat, Stan Kroenke for sure.
I can see if this guy was an ass, I'd want to hit him. Yeah, he does kind of look like he would be.
When he had the stringy long hair.
Oh, okay.
But as a player,
good-looking cat. Sean Avery's yeah. You know what? Sean Avery did a guest spot as Sean Avery on a show I really like called Shoresy, and it really made me respect Sean Avery. I'll be honest. I don't actually respect him, but I respect him more, I should say.
Yep. Cole Bassett's left foot, the most punchable face in sports. Whoever just cost you your fantasy week, no chin is safe. That's a good one. This could be Ben, says Aaron Rodgers. That's a good one. Oh, Miz from the WWE. Now there's a punchable face. That's a great call. Oh, here's the winner. Winner, chicken dinner. This could be
the
Ben.
rat face.
Yeah. Right?
Brad Marchand.
Yeah. So happy when he cried.
So happy.
So sad when he won a championship, but at least Matthew Tkachuk was able to win one.
Yeah.
Another one.
Anthony C, for some reason, is throwing out. No, those weren't bad. No, see, they were great leaders. Anthony C says Trent Dilfer, the Ravens, and Brad Johnson off the 2002 Buccaneers. Those were great leaders.
So people that had Trent Dilfer on their team, like even Tony Banks, says he's the best backup ever. And Dilfer said he wasn't a good backup at the beginning. I think with Tony, I don't think he was.
Yeah.
But he, by all accounts, he and Alex Smith turned into sensational backup quarterbacks and guys that nurtured players. Like, who was it recently that said, I'm not here to be a leader? Somebody recently in sports said, I'm not a leader or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, you need to take a leadership role. Somebody said that I'm not here to nurture young players. Might have been
that was Mike Matheny, wasn't it? Didn't Mike Matheny say I'm not here to coach young players?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Tony was different. So some guys. Oh, you know who it was? It was Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco. There it was.
Yep. But I think that the really good guys. By the way, Matheny as a player was a great leader. The really good guys do it.
I think it might have been that Flacco said he doesn't get people who are like that because Tannehill said it's not my job to coach you like to those backup quarterbacks. I think that might have been it.
Flacco just in the last couple of weeks.
Okay. It says he doesn't consider himself a mentor for young quarterbacks. Okay, my apologies. Paid somebody an answer, no matter how they answer, it kind of makes the guy making it look bad. If I say I don't want to be a mentor, I look bad. If I say I do want to be a mentor, then I look like an idiot that doesn't care about being good and playing football. So it's one of those questions that no matter what I say, you guys can write about what you want to write about. There's a lot of questions like that, and that's why you end up having to try to avoid them. I tend to try to be honest, and I said I'm not a mentor. I just play football. In the quarterback room, there's a lot of times when there's learning experiences, and I have a lot of experience, and I talk on things, and hopefully they listen. But it's not necessarily my job to make sure they listen to me. Hopefully you have a really good relationship with the guys that are in the room, and you naturally want to do that. Interesting.
Yeah, interesting take. Now, a guy like Kurt Warner, when Mark Bulger was in the room with him, Kurt Warner wanted to be a mentor and tried to help him. Even when Bulger got the starting job and Warner was here as the backup, Kurt was trying to help him out. by all accounts, Brett Favre was never trying to help out Aaron Rodgers when Rodgers got selected by, and maybe it was different because the guy was the number 1 pick. But hell, when the Broncos took Tommy Maddox with the first round pick, John Elway went nuts and basically forced them to trade him. Didn't that happen with Brady and Garoppolo too?
A little bit, yeah. There was some Brady Garoppolo stuff as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Because
some guys do not want to be the mentor or the leader.
Also, Anthony C. bringing up Dilfer and Brad Johnson also always makes me want to think of top 5 worst starting quarterbacks to ever win a Super Bowl. Those two, Jeff Hofstetler, Bob Greasy,
yes.
and Nick Foles.
Wow.
That's my top 5.
Okay.
I'm missing somebody, I think, in the 70s that probably wasn't that good. Did the Steelers one year?
Steelers
it was always Bradshaw, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. Because they lost when they had
Stabler. Now, the Broncos went to a Super Bowl with Craig Morton and Norris Weiss, but they lost.
Yeah.
And the Cowboys, they had a timeshare between Craig Morton and Staubach. But I think when they got to the Super Bowl, Staubach was the guy. Earl Morrall.
Oh. With the Colts?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good one, actually. Damn, that's old school. I like that call.
Here, try. Okay. That wasn't this. I was trying to think of a Super Bowl champion because Joe Kapp went to the Super Bowl, but he didn't win. That's a good one.
Earl Morrall won an MVP.
Okay.
He wasn't very good. He was really old when he did win that Super Bowl, but he did win an MVP in his age 34 season. I think it was Super Bowl 5. Yeah, so that was 70.
Jim O'Brien.
Yeah. So yeah,
field goal.
I don't know. I just off the top of my head, anytime somebody mentions Brad Johnson and Trent Dilfer, I always got to go worst Super Bowl winning quarterbacks of all time.
Okay.
Jeff Hostetler, Nick Foles, great stories. I'm not trying to knock on them. I'm just saying. Sorry, guys, you were what you were for a reason.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool.
I still hate that Nick Foles won that Super Bowl.
Oh, no, you didn't just say Nick Foles. At least he threw for over 400 yards and several TDs in it, and he caught one.
I'm just saying, just talking about what you expect from quarterbacks as Super Bowl winners. The Nick Foles things is also like in a league that was 100% built around quarterbacks. He was a Super Bowl winning quarterback. He beat Tom Brady to win that Super Bowl. I don't think I'm being unfair here.
No, I don't think so.
And again, I part of it is affected by the fact that I was in St. Louis surrounded by media when it was announced that they had signed Nick Foles to an extension, and everyone looked around and just goes,
Lindenwood.
Why? Who? Really? And so that's all. That's partially what I'm rolling off of.
Yeah, that was weird. Hey, did you know a legendary weekend is coming to St. Louis?
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to miss the Stifel Charity Classic presented by Compliance Solutions, September 4th through 7th at the historic Norwood Hills Country Club. Watch PGA Tour champions tee it up and compete. Just some of the names that were at the top of the leaderboard last year, along with winner Y.E. Yang, were Bernhard Langer, Stuart Sink, Justin Leonard, Chris DeMarco, Darren Clark, and more. It's right around the corner, and you can enjoy a live performance by music sensation O.A.R. at Friday's community concert presented by CarShield. Tickets start at just $20. Kids, military veterans, and first responders get in free. Get your tickets today at StifelCharityClassic.com. That's Stifel, S-T-I-F-E-L, CharityClassic.com. And we will see you at Norwood Hills September 4th through 7th, plus Folds of Honor Friday, that Friday morning. I'm going to be the MC for that event. So
there we go.
Looking forward to it.
There we go. Bernie's going to join us a little bit later around 10:40 today. But after we wrap up with Bernie, we'll then have our giveaway. So stay tuned through that Bernie Miklasz interview, and then join us afterwards. We'll have a little trivia question to win 2 tickets to O.A.R.
Okay, I have reached the conclusion when we talk about runway, and we've been talking about it a lot this year, and I am really good with you guys having, I know people, I'm more patient, I think, than most, maybe too patient with baseball players. So the only guy, Matthew, that on this roster, the Cardinal roster, that I think I completely know about, and he doesn't need any more runway. I don't need to see any more. The only guy for me is Lars Nootbaar. I think I know what Lars Nootbaar is. I don't question
what
he is. I think that he is a good, not great player that, if healthy, could be a good, not great producer. I think that he's I'm not saying he's a bad player, because he is, and his StatCast numbers would lead you to believe, if you didn't know anything else about him and you just looked at the StatCast numbers, you'd say, man, kind of a stud. But it doesn't translate into production. So I am of the opinion that the Cardinals, there are some guys that I don't think need any more runway. I think that, okay, so the people that are on their Southwest jets, ready to take off. I've got Mason Wynn.
Yep.
I've got Donovan.
Yep.
I've got Herrera. I'm putting Burleson in there. Not that he's going to be great, but I think we know what he is. I'm putting McGreevy in there, even though it's really early. And I'm putting Liberatore in there because I think I know what he is. He may get a little bit better, but I think that he's probably going to be a mid-rotation starter when all is said and done. The people that may be ready to take off include, and I don't know if we find this out in the last 40 games of the season, Gorman, Victor Scott, Walker, and Pallante? Question mark. I just don't feel like I know enough about those guys, and it would scare me to send them elsewhere. And then the people that I think need more runway are primarily relief pitchers. I do have Sajasi in there, although Sajasi's in 2 months, he could prove to me that he's a utility guy, a first, second, third baseman, shortstop. He's utility guy.
He's infield Lars Nootbaar.
Yeah. He could prove to me that he is what I need as a utility infielder. I think as a starting pitcher, obviously, Leahy needs more runway. You need to find out about him. And then the entire bullpen, Romero as the closer, O'Brien, Graceffo, Granillo, Swanson. Is there anybody that you think, anybody else that in your mind has had enough runway and you don't need to find out anything else about them? And do you think I've been fair to Lars Nootbaar?
I think you're being extremely fair to Lars Nootbaar.
Okay.
I'm about to be a little unfair. I feel like I know what Pedro Pajes is.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's another one. I think I know what he is. That's one. That's another one.
And he is what he is.
And he is what he is. It's not a bad thing, but he is what he is. I'm completely fine with having him in a catcher share, assuming I'm a little bit more comfortable with starting the other guy in the share, I guess is my thing. Like, I love Pozo as a weapon, but I think Pozo should be utilized as a pinch hitting weapon.
Agreed.
And I think you need to put Pedro Pajes into a catcher share with somebody who provides something different and also provides something potential wise more so than Pedro Pajes. That'd be Jimmy Crooks. Also, if apparently the 40-man crunch is a thing, then bring up guys who are in their pinch year, who you do have to make a decision on, and to give them some time. I'm not saying, I understand people are going to bitch and say, oh, wow, 5 catchers, that makes a lot of sense. No, for me, it's a first baseman, a DH/left fielder, a pinch hitter, and 2 catchers. That's how I'm breaking it down.
Okay. Don't say Ryan Fernandez, Richard Crouch. We didn't. You mama, Walker is still young. I would be done with Walker if he was 25 years old. And I also think, in addition to him being young, that he's been done a tremendous disservice by the organization. I don't think that he's been treated reasonably, and they may have broken him. He might never turn out to be what he could have been because of the way he was treated by the organization. Craig Lewis, Newt needs to go. I don't know. Yeah, trade Newt, he says.
The thing is that he doesn't need to go. It's just the team needs to shift their mindset about him. And that's my thing. I don't know why Lars Nootbaar needs to start 4 or 5 times a week. I just keep going back to that quote from Ali Marmol. It makes no sense to me. And while we're talking about quotes from Ali Marmol, because I'll try to keep it even, I don't know what changed when Jordan Walker got hurt. Because when he came back up here, he was hitting the ball, and his approach seemed pretty solid. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not sure why they decided they couldn't play him every day anymore, and all of a sudden it became we needed to play Newt 4 or 5 times a day. I don't get that decision. That one, honestly, I think that's going to remain this year as the one that's going to baffle me even the most. The J.J. Wetherholt indecision will be number 2, but the Jordan Walker flip-flopping will always be the thing that bothers me the most from the 2025 season. It makes no sense how, as soon as he was healthy, the mindset wasn't immediately, again, lefty, righty, we don't care. Jordan Walker plays every day.
And you had to find out if he was going to be a star. Mary Likens. I've seen enough of Victor Scott to know what kind of player he'll be. Great on, hold on, let me go scroll back to Mary here. Oh, you guys are going crazy now.
Up on the screen.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Yeah, great on the bases, but rarely gets there. And see, that's where you hope that he can figure something out. And I don't know if he will. I'm with you. But I think that I want to see a little bit more to find out if he has discipline, because we did see it for about a month, and maybe he's incapable of adjusting to the way they changed the way they pitched to him. But I would just like to see if he's capable of adjusting. And you know what? The other part of it, from his perspective, that's good, is in the last 6 weeks of this season, these last 40 games, they don't have anybody else to play center field.
That's a very good point.
That's good for him.
That's a really good point. Graham commenting to Devin about Jordan Walker. He's shown periods of being a great hitter. His problem is terrible cold streaks. He's only 25, so he can still develop.
23.
He would be a valuable bat. He would be a valuable middle of bat if he finds consistency. And then you had, this could be Ben. I think Walker needs a change of scenery. Maybe there's another similar situation player that we can swap. Let's tap back into where you're at, because last week when we talked about Jordan Walker, it would be a weird way to describe this. You had kind of been in a fluid state of, I don't want them to give him up, but I'm not confident that this is the right place for him to be. Mm-hmm. So let's tap in another week, a solid week from Jordan Walker. He didn't necessarily build on that 5 for 11 from the Cubs series, but he still had that last weekend. Let's give a weekly update on where you stand right now with Jordan Walker.
Here's the thing with Walker, and I still think that he's going to be good, but I also thought in 2023 that Dylan Carlson still had a chance to be a really good player, but his value continued to plummet. And rather than take chances, one thing we do know is that people around baseball still hold Jordan Walker in high regard. I don't want to go another year and have his value plummet to the level that Dylan Carlson's did. So you're getting a Sean Armstrong for 2 weeks out of Jordan Walker. And you have some other players on the team. Herrera has become the offensive player that Walker was supposed to become. So you've got that right-handed bat, and you're going to have Wetherholt on the way. He's got to play a position at some point. So if the Cardinals would move Jordan Walker for reasonable value, whether it be a pitcher or another right-handed bat that doesn't have to play the outfield, he can play anywhere. If I could move him, I still think I would. Now, I'm not going to move him for a Sean Armstrong. The reason I'm moving him is because he's still at a point in his career where I can get value from him. And I know the reason I want to get value, I know that at the age of 23, he could have a stellar 15-year career. But would I do it based upon the roller coaster ride that we've been on with him? Yeah. And I love him. I still think that he has a chance to be great. I'm not convinced. I think he could go either way, but I don't want to see more of these high quality assets that the Cardinals have enjoyed over the years turn into dead money, dead weight.
Eddie Grant, 3.5 out with 40 to go. Bullpen still has talent, but lacks the previous depth with losing Helsley, Matz, and Maton for almost nothing in return, and that has cost us some games. Flip side, all the pitchers they gave away except for Matz have given up some very crucial runs for the teams they've given up to. Helsley gets beat up. Maton's had 2 innings. Breezed through the first inning, then got hammered in the second one.
Yep. Marte.
And yet the Cardinals were able to get something for them. So, I mean, you might not like the trade. I know that Eddie Grant's been into the chat multiple times from the Facebook side. He's not happy with the trade, and I guess still having a chance hasn't changed that.
So 14 years ago today, the Cardinals lost to the Pirates, starting a run of losing 7 out of 9. They lost to the Pirates 6-2.
How many years ago?
Ryan Domit, 2011.
Good Lord.
Ryan Domit hit a 3-run homer. Pirates beat the Cardinals 6-2, starting a run of 7 losses in 9 games for the Cardinals. And by August 24th, they were 10.5 games out with 32 games to play. It has happened. Now, it happened with people like David Freese and Albert Pujols and Matt Holliday and Chris Carpenter on the team. Sure, but it has happened. I'm just saying. I just think that we need to we need to give the Cardinals a little bit more credit here. I think we are not being reasonable enough, are we? Hey, you know what? It's pretty cool to have the Yankees in town, the Junkies, because DraftKings, the crown is yours, and DraftKings Pick 6 has some absolutely wonderful over-unders for you tonight when the Cardinals play New York. And I think I'm just going to go with this game. Am I allowed to do that? Can I just go with this game, sir?
I like when you just stick with one game.
Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. You got Andre Pallante going for the Cardinals. So I'm looking at both of these. You have Aaron Judge to go over 1.5 total bases. I am going to go with that. I'm going to go with Aaron Judge to go over 1.5 total bases. Reasonable?
Yeah, that's
fair.
Call. Yeah.
Okay. You know what I'm going to do? Rather than do that, I'm going to have Aaron Judge to hit a home run tonight.
All right, fine.
Okay. And then hits plus runs plus RBIs. As we look at this game, now he'll, if you aren't aware of it, has an earned run average of 7 for New York in his first 2 starts. So it's not like this is a guy that is completely unhittable. So in addition to my Aaron Judge home run, and I don't know if he's going to hit, I'm just saying he's going to hit more than a half. I am going to go with Ivan Herrera to wind up with more than 1.5 hits plus runs plus RBIs. So Judge to hit a home run, Herrera to go over 1.5 hits and runs and RBIs. And that's my start for a Pick 6 brought to you by DraftKings. And it's so much fun to play. You can play in Missouri. If you make a $5 investment, you'll get 25 right away from DraftKings so that you can invest a little bit more. It's awesome. I love partnering with them. I love being a part of DraftKings Pick 6, where the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
All right, Bernie Miklasz joins us as he does every Friday here on the Randy Karraker Show on STL Sports Central, presented by DraftKings, where the crown is yours. There is Bernard J. Good morning, sir. How you doing?
Well, it's good to be with you. Thanks for your patience. I was just completing my Bernie Show video for today about Paul Goldschmidt and then Nolan Arenado and all of those good things. So I thought it was a good time to do a retrospective. So here I am with you now, and I'm glad to be here as always.
Great to have you with us. I want to start with this. I just said I made my bet at DraftKings Pick 6. I don't know if you heard it, but I bet on Aaron Judge to hit a home run with Pallante on the mound for the Cardinals. Would you bet against that?
How's Aaron Judge been doing lately? Can I look that up?
He's only played a couple of games. He's back, but he's I think this is kind of a get well game for him.
Yeah, I think so. And I don't trust Pallante. Unless he's, got a ground ball machine going, he's very susceptible to home runs. So, yeah, I mean, how can you bet against Aaron Judge, right?
Yeah, right. Okay, so just a little retrospective, Bernie, because I loved when the Cardinals got Goldy. I loved when they got Arenado. It didn't work out for a variety of reasons. Well, those two were here. Let's start with this. Were those two good investments by the Cardinals?
Yeah, I mean, because I was talking with someone in the Cardinals front office about this over the weekend, and the thing of it is, I think we all knew there would be a risk that one of those guys or both of those guys would age in a decline in an age-related decline way, and you never know when it's going to happen. But I don't think anyone. Let me speak for myself. I didn't think that Nolan Arenado by age 33 would be showing signs of being done offensively or on the way down offensively. Mm-hmm. And I would say he's done by now. And he went like the idea of him being an above average hitter in power, especially. So they gave up. I know there's a lot of revisionist history idiots because I've heard from them and say, well, they did give up Luke Weaver and Carson Kelly for Goldschmidt. Okay. I guess Carson Kelly was going to just take over for Yadier Molina, right?
Ooh.
Yeah. And yeah. How many teams has Luke Weaver played for? Like 19?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And Goldy
Okay.
did win an MVP.
Yes. Right. So, listen, man, I've been really hard on the Cardinals, but there's some people out there just so cuckoo,
Yep.
just bat poop crazy.
Okay.
I mean, they won't even, they gave up nothing for Nado, and the Rockies gave Bill DeWitt and the Cardinals $51 million
right.
that was owed to. So both of those moves made great sense at the time. And, in 21 and 22, the Cardinals were really good. 23, they were terrible. 24, they were By then, both of those guys in 2024 especially really were showing signs of age.
Yeah. So the other part of this, and we want everybody to check out your video, and forgive me if you kind of put this in there, but did the Cardinals do right by those two guys after acquiring them?
Well, the only thing I'll say is this: they were chasing a lot of pitching the entire time. Listen, the 2021 team, once their outfield got healthy, it was really good from like around the middle of June to the end of the season. That outfield offense was phenomenal. And they had a lot of good things going for them in 2021. Even Chris Dickerson went through that one crazy stretch. So, but they also had to chase starting pitching at the deadline, and they got Happ and they got Lester, and those guys did exactly what the Cardinals needed them to do, which was to just stabilize the rotation. So could they have added some other talent? I'm sure they could have. But in 2022, the Cardinals had, in my opinion, a team that was capable of winning the World Series, because you not only had those two guys, the MVP and the third place finisher, you had Albert Pujols having a dream season. You had all the momentum going with Molina in his last year and Wainwright in his last great year. You actually had a lot of production from rookies that season. Donovan, Gorman, Burleson was getting to the mix. So they Juan Yepes in 2022, who contributed. And John Mozeliak made two great trades at the deadline for Jordan Montgomery and Jose Quintana. And the Cardinals had a phenomenal record when those two guys started games for them. So they went into the postseason, and Quintana pitched a great game against the Phillies. He shut them out. He wasn't the reason they lost that game. And we all know Jordan Montgomery. I think common sense tells us that he was capable of pitching extremely well in the postseason, because he pitched extremely well for the Cardinals in the regular season. And then he pitched extremely well for the Rangers in the 2023 postseason. So I don't have a problem with the team that the Cardinals had on the field after the trade deadline in 2022. They won 93 games and they won the division. They just choked up a playoff series. And by the way, Arenado Goldy had a lot to do with that too. In fact, they had the Cardinals were 0-3 in the playoffs in 2021 and 22. And those two guys were 2 for 22. I mean, so I think it starts with, did they do their job in the postseason? The answer is no. I mean, that's just a fact.
Right.
Could the Cardinals have done more for them? Yeah. But I don't know how to say it. I see all the gray area in this. I don't have like an all or nothing answer. What do you think?
Well, no, I agree with you. I think the issues were at some levels out of the control of the players. And I know that we can go back and relitigate whether or not Quintana should have been taken out. My first guess was no, and I still say that Quintana shouldn't have been taken out of that game. And I think the domino effect of him being taken out is why you had to have Ryan Helsley try to pitch like he did in that game. There were a lot of things that happened in that game that would have changed things. But to your point, Bernie, Lester and Happ were really good. And I remember when they got those guys, they had Oviedo. And actually, I think those guys wound up doing a lot more than the Cardinals expected when they got him, because they got him so that they didn't have their young pitchers getting killed. And they did way more, but Lester and Happ. And then Montgomery and Quintana were fine. They were good. So I think from my perspective, like I said, I was very excited when I got them. And I got spoiled by people that showed up at big times And unfortunately for Goldschmidt and Arenado, they didn't in St. Louis. We got spoiled a lot, not just by Albert Pujols, but by David Freese having a postseason like he had, like Lance Berkman having a postseason like he had. If you go back to 06 and all of those LCSs that Jim Edmonds played in the World Series, Jim Edmonds was an unbelievable postseason performer. And for whatever reason, here in St. Louis, Arenado and Goldschmidt weren't able to step up. So I do think that the Cardinals did reasonably well by them, enough so that if those guys performed, they should have won a playoff series.
Yeah, it was sitting there. I mean, you remember the Dodgers game, the Cardinals had chances early to get, they did score a run in the first inning off Max Scherzer for the Dodgers, but they had all kinds of chances to tack on. And they were 0 for 11 with runners in scoring position. And I think Arenado, I believe, was 0 for 3 with RISP in that game. I don't think Goldy did much in that game either. Maybe he did. But the bottom line is they scored one run. They had a chance to score a bunch of runs. And then in 2022, I mean, listen, when you lose 2 games, I'm going to underline the point that you made. When you lose 2 games to the Phillies and you score 3 runs, and the only guys who drove in the 3 runs were 2 rookies, Yepez and Gorman. Yeah, you got to point a finger at Goldy and Arenado because, after all, they were number 1 and number 3 in the MVP vote. But going back, I just want to just add one more thing to 2022, because I don't think, frankly, that John Mozeliak gets enough credit for those 2 trades. And I know that in St. Louis, if you praise John Mozeliak, right now there is an indictment. There's an arrest warrant out for me right now for even saying that. But it's amazing. Like, my correspondence with fans, the way they just kind of sloughed that off is no big deal. When the Cardinals traded for Montgomery and Quintana, their rotation was in brutal shape. They were trying everybody. Nothing was sticking. He got those guys, and he got them. They were, needless to say, the guys they gave up for those 2 guys were expendable. There wasn't anything major lost at all. So in the games that Quintana and Montgomery started, the Cardinals were 17-6, and Quintana had a 2 ERA and Montgomery was about a 3.11 ERA. I mean, those are 2 fantastic trades. And I don't know how anybody who's got an actual brain could try to push back on that. Those were great trades.
Yeah, and that was Bader for Montgomery and Oviedo, right? For Quintana, and Chris Stratton, who was serviceable for the Cardinals down that stretch run too.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, at that point, Bader wasn't having a real good year, and he was expendable. And I know that he had that great postseason for the Yankees, but what? You're supposed to look in the crystal ball and see that and trade him, even though that was going to happen. I mean, that kind of stuff is silly.
And Bernie, if I'm not mistaken, he was on the DL when they traded him. I think he'd been hurt for a long time, and they traded off of the DL to the Yankees.
That's right. Thanks for reminding me of that. Yeah, he broke his foot or something like that. I don't know what it was. Yeah. No, and remember, he got benched a couple games by Marmol for not hustling. He was in a weird place at that time. I love Harry Bader, but 2022 was kind of a tormented season for him.
Well, we'll move on here, turn the page from the past to the potential future, and also criticize John Mozeliak a little bit, because we talked about it yesterday. His comments over on 101 in the morning with the TMA crew about JJ Wetherholt and Quinn Matthews, and I think we can throw out the Quinn Matthews thing for a lot of reasonable reasons with him struggling to go 3 innings and things like that. So let's just focus in on JJ Wetherholt. He's the number 6 overall prospect according to Major League Baseball's top 100 rankings, but apparently there's just too much stuff they got to do with the 40 man to get him up this year, Bernie.
That's one of John Mozeliak's favorite things, even when the Cardinals were good. Just this constant anxiety and worry and stress and, heading to the fainting couch over the 40-man roster all the time. If the Cardinals had such an abundant amount of talent, where it's like, oh my gosh, we got to leave an extra 40-man spot open. We can't give that to Wetherholt. Why do they stink? and why when they need a pitcher from the minor leagues to suture a bleeding starting rotation. The one guy they could have brought up, but they didn't, was Michael McGreevy. They did bring him up. He was the only guy down there starting pitching wise they deemed as worthy of promotion. Listen, Matthews will be a good pitcher in the major leagues, but other than that, if you look in Memphis right now, there's nobody down there. And where did the Cardinals go in terms of help on the big club when they needed a lift, a boost offensively? Well, I'm sorry, did I miss it when all these impact bats came up from AAA? So I'm not, if the Cardinals front office had worried more about developing pitching, maybe trading for pitching, doing a better job of drafting pitching, maybe they would have more of a case about the 40-man roster. But the fact is, they have always overrated their own talent under Mo, and they continue to overrate their own talent. And this idea that, this is impossible to do because we have to leave one of those 40-man spots open. We can't give it to Wetherholt. Guys, it just underscores, it underlines, it reinforces the idea, the knowledge that this organization is tone deaf. They're absolutely tone deaf. They're going to have J.J. Wetherholt, unless they're really spectacularly stupid, they'll be marketing J.J. Wetherholt all off season. Come see J.J. in 26 and all this other stuff. He'll be everywhere, right? Great personality, great talent. Don't you want to give your fans who have gone through a lot this year and are so disappointed and they're not excited by the team, don't you want to give them a little something, like a little sneak preview of coming attractions? Start your marketing campaign now. What you're going to say?
Another thing? Can I add this?
Yeah.
If you are going to keep him in the minors, and you have Wynn and you have Donovan and presumably Nolan Gorman, who's going to get his opportunities at third, why is he not, Wetherholt, not getting an opportunity to get some low pressure development innings in the outfield?
100% with you on that. The Cardinals offensively the last 3 years, but especially the last 2 years, their outfield in terms of offense coming from the outfield, all three position, is the worst in baseball. I mean, and yet they seem oblivious to this for some reason. Like if you go to Fangraphs and look at the splits, and you can actually look at each team in terms of offense at each position, you would actually laugh at the numbers that they get from their outfield. It's that bad, and yet do they ever take the only thing they've done to maybe address that is they move Herrera to left field, and I think that'll work out. I just hope I'd like to see him start hitting again. Mm-hmm. But this would be the perfect time to have Wetherholt running around out there. I think he's got the speed and the instincts. He can play center field even. So I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it. They never gave Jordan Walker any preparation time that mattered at Double-A when they moved him to the outfield. He had about a month down there playing the outfield, and then they plopped him in the major leagues in right field. Have no idea what they're doing, which is why there's a regime change.
Yeah, that's at the end of the day, that's it. And I think that we have to, number one, I'm appreciative of the fact that the Cardinals now have a roving minor league outfield instructor. So if you would try that with Wetherholt, who several years ago, when they moved Jordan Walker to the outfield, basically they said, hey, go out and get some reps in right field. Just kind of teach yourself. We don't really have, we've got a coaching staff here, but we don't have a guy who's really done it. So just go out and do it. And we saw the results of that. So for Chaim Bloom to bring in Larry Day and those guys, the former Cardinal terrific guy, Bernard Gilkey, had been working with individual teams, whether it was Springfield or Peoria or whatever. Well, now he's your roving minor league instructor. You've got a perfect guy to teach young outfielders how to get better. And those guys have been, the actual outfielders they're in a perfect spot to do this, Bernie, in my opinion, with a guy like Wetherholt. And that doesn't mean just because you train him to play the outfield, it doesn't mean you keep him there. But what is baseball all about? What have the Cardinals preached? What did they tell Brendan Nado would make him valuable until they got to arbitration with him? versatility is good.
No, that's exactly right. I'm not saying that this is something that just started in Major League Baseball, but I personally have not seen as much emphasis on having the value of multi-position players the way it is kind of prevalent in baseball right now. That's why if they went to trade anyone, well, they're going to have to trade. They got an overpopulation of left-handed hitters, so they're going to have to trade at least one, but I think it'll be two, because you got to factor in the idea that Wetherholt will be up here next season. Unless they're just going to wrap them in, they're going to put him in some kind of big, huge, like bank vault and like lock him away, and like he won't debut until 2031 or something. I have no idea. Oh, that's right. Heimblum's taking over, so that won't happen. But anyway, Randy, I agree with you 100%.
So
any position this young JJ can play, it makes him even more valuable. And why not look at him at center field? Because the Cardinals are in bad shape in terms of their outfield.
Yeah.
Maybe this kid Joshua Baez in Double-A might be the real thing. We'll see how he does in Triple-A last year, but he's getting closer. A power hitter who also steals 35 bases a year sounds good to me.
Yeah. I want to go back to the left-handed hitters, because before you came on, I said that the one guy that I feel like I know about, that I'm willing to move, is Nootbaar. So, and I know you agree with that. So you've got Donovan, who's going to be here. So that leaves Burleson or Gorman. Do you go with the guy that kind of is what he is, and you pretty much know what you're going to get out of Burleson, or do you go with the ceiling of Nolan Gorman?
Well, I'm going to take door number 3, and I know it's not a popular decision or opinion, but Brendan Donovan's 28. By the time he becomes a free agent, he'll be 30, going on 31. He plays hard. Listen, he's a really good player. He's not a great player. He's a really good player. And he plays very, very hard, to his credit, which also means he gets banged up a lot. And unless they have plans to give him a long-term contract extension, in my opinion, he is the most tradable guy in terms of value because of the stuff that we all really like about him. But those teams, teams that have just about everything but could use a guy like him, would really want him, and they don't have to worry about signing him to a long-term contract. I would hate to think that, Brendan Donovan, who's going to make more money next year, more money the year after that, then he's a free agent. I would think that he'll continue to play good baseball for the Cardinals. But what's best for the Cardinals, who are absolutely entering a rebuild? There is no question about it, and it's going to be, as I like to say, a low and slow rebuild. There's no shortcuts are going to be taken. One thing that Bloom is going to want to do is he's going to want to cash in players that are marketable and do have trade value, and their cars are cost controlled, which adds to their trade value. And unless he really feels strongly about extending someone's contract long term, the best thing for the Cardinals would be to cash them in now for maximum trade value, rather than hang on to them, because it's going to be a rebuild. The one guy that actually profiles as a likely long-term extension guy would be Mason Wynn, because the Cardinals don't have any elite players, all-around players. They do have an incredibly elite shortstop, which is a big position. So they have an elite defensive player in Wynn, and he's 23. That's a good investment long-term, because defense is always valuable. So listen, every time I talk about Donovan, I think people think I'm like a hater or something. I'm nothing like that. I'm just thinking about it pragmatically, and I'm thinking about it through the lens of, I know the Cardinals are rebuilding, and it's going to be a slow process, and they want to stockpile as much young talent as they can that will serve them well into the future. I'm just looking at it that way.
And when Heim gets going, one of the things, and I never really watched Tampa closely, and I really haven't researched this, so I should, but apparently they only make deals where they win in WAR. So like if there's a guy that has like 1/10 of a point more in WAR, they'll make the deal. But the Rays don't make deals where they get less WAR than the other team does.
Yeah,
and I wonder if he'll take that same approach here.
Well, I think, listen, he's that Tampa Bay model's brilliant because I don't know how, they made the playoffs, 9 times from 2008 through what was it? Well, between 2008 and 2024. And that doesn't sound like much, but they went to 2 World Series, the same amount of World Series the Cardinals have played in since 2008. Mm-hmm. And their average payroll was 26th. And their best year they had down there, they won 96 games and they had the 30th payroll. Their payroll was like 60 million. They get more value for the dollar than any organization. Cleveland would be second. It's pretty impressive. Now, Cardinal fans, I've heard from when I had my own YouTube channels, oh, well, you always talk about Tampa Bay. How many World Series have they won? People that say that are missing the point. Like, you could not miss a point any more than that one. Because, listen, when you get to the postseason, I think that's when your payroll and like your superstar power really click in. But for them to win 96 games in the AL East and to do stuff like that repeatedly on a shoestring budget, that's smart baseball right there. That's the point. You got too many people, that follow the Cardinals that want them to throw money around like they're crazy. And that's why they're in the spot that they're in now. They've been chasing like mid-range free agents and wasting a lot of money. And that's why they've been stuck in mediocrity for years now. I don't want them to do that. I want to see them rebuild. And if Bloom can bring that Tampa Bay model for drafting and developing, that's all I'm talking about, drafting and developing, and payroll efficiency, which is a good thing, not a bad thing. That's what I want, because Bill DeWitt will top it off when they're ready to win again. I talked to Bill DeWitt about it. He loves the Tampa Bay model because it reminds him of what the Cardinals used to do once upon a time. And he believes in payroll efficiency, not because he's cheap, but because he's smart. Because when you have payroll efficiency, you're not wasting a lot of money. You have more money to spend on impact guys who can help you. Why do you think they went and got Matt Holliday in a trade and extended his contract? Bill DeWitt did that quite often. But at first, it will just be the emphasis on drafting and developing players. The money part will come later.
I wonder if the money part comes back with the revenue shortfalls that they're dealing with because of the reduced attendance, because of the reduced TV money, and with the fact that the Yankees aren't having any problems drawing fans or making money. The Dodgers aren't having any problems like that. The Mets, their owner doesn't care. He's going to do it himself. The Padres are going to continue to spend as long as they draw fans, and they're up top 2 in attendance, right? They've got a pretty good TV deal. I wonder if the Cardinals are going to get back to what they used to do, where you would draft and develop, build a core, and then supplement that core with the superstar players. I wonder if the Cardinals will be able to afford that financially anymore, or if they'll want to afford that financially anymore.
I'm really interested in payroll this year, payroll size, and the correlation to winning. And there's a lot of stories in baseball that teams are showing if you're smart, you can win, and you can win a lot of games, and you can have a payroll that's 15th or 14th or in the Brewers case, like 22nd or something. The Brewers show that if you're smart and you know what the hell you're doing, you don't need a big payroll. The Cardinals can put together a leaner, meaner machine and with great payroll efficiency, which is the idea, and still win a hell of a lot of games. So as far as a ranking, I personally think we'll see the Cardinals get back to where ranked like 12th, 13th, 14th in payroll. They'll be in the upper half. They won't be in the top 10, but they'll be in the upper half. And you know what? There's not a damn thing wrong with that either.
No.
When the Cardinals won the World Series, in 2006, they had the 10th payroll, closer to 11th really. In 2011, they had the 11th payroll. When they won the pennant in 2013, I think it was the 12th payroll. When they won 100 games in 2015, I think they were 14th in payroll. They don't have to be in the top 10. And by the way, they're not going to be in the top 10 because the teams that inhabit the top 10 are the ones that are really going out of their minds throwing money around. Yeah. And, other than the Dodgers, I'll be curious to see what these teams will have to show for that.
Yeah. And I want to make one other quick point, and I know Matthew wants to weigh in here, but historically, and again, we don't know who's going to actually make the decisions, but Bill DeWitt is ultimately going to have to sign off on them. When the Cardinals have succeeded with spending money, it's generally been with people that they know. They didn't know Paul Goldschmidt really well, but they had him for a little while before they signed him. But Holiday they have for half a season before they sign him. McGuire, Edmonds, they get to know guys. Those
Roland.
were Darryl Kyle, right? Where they failed in spending money, this isn't 100% because they did give the extensions to Michaelis and Matt Carpenter. But primarily, the Cardinals' mistakes have been with people that they didn't know, like Brett Cecil, Andrew Miller, Dexter Fowler, Mike Leake, and obviously the money with Contreras is reasonably well spent. But it seems to me that the Cardinals would do well to try to go back to that format where you learn a little bit about a guy before you give him a bunch of money.
Well, I agree with you, and I agree with you for another reason that goes along with it. And I'm sure you thought about this, but St. Louis is, back in those days, McGuire was the one who started it. Well, actually, some of the guys that came along with Tony La Russa from Oakland, but McGuire did too. It was a year later. Where it's like, wow, what a great place to play baseball. I mean, just the fans are everywhere. They just love baseball. This place is packed all the time. The noise level, everything, it's great, and people treat you with respect. You're not, the media is not, smacking you around all the time, and the fans are supportive, and it takes a lot to get on their bad side. I don't, we never get on their bad side. They love the Cardinals. Well, that was baseball heaven, and that's what the Edmonds fell in love with it. Roland fell in love with it. We can name another guys who fell in love with it. The Cardinals they're no longer baseball heaven. The situation's deteriorating. Mm-hmm. Now, it can be baseball heaven again, but right now, when guys who are free agents can pick where they want to play, and you're going to have the teams on both coasts. They're going to muscle up and throw the most money around. But even if it's close, even if the Cardinals get in those chases for those guys, with the condition they're in now, and they're starting a rebuild. Actually, this was the first year of a rebuild. Why would this be a destination place for a free agent? Especially if they're aching to win a ring, they're going to look at that. They're also going to look at lifestyle. They're going to look at the state of the franchise in terms of the trajectory. How long before I could be capable of, winning a pennant or a World Series? Right now, the Cardinals are way down on the list. They don't have much to sell. So the one thing you could do, however, to your point, you're not going to be able to win the free agent battles for the top guys for a lot of reasons. But you can acquire them, and you can give them a year and a half or something like that, and they can find out, you know what? I kind of like what's going on here. I like living here. Now, this ain't going to be like the good old days where they're going to settle for short money to stay here. You'd still have to pay up. But I think that by getting them here first, they would have a better chance to understand, hey, this thing's bouncing back and I want to be a part of it. I mean, after all, look at Contreras and Gray. I mean, they could have gotten out of here, but they really love playing here. I mean, it's because they had the chance to play here. And even though they went through, they haven't exactly been through, they're not popping any champagne, but they love the experience of playing baseball in St. Louis, and they get that it's still a pretty cool thing.
Bernie, you used the word rebuild a little bit earlier. I know you've written about it and had a video kind of based around that word as well. So looking here for the Cardinals, I think it's fair to say that if they stick to their guns and they don't bring up JJ Wetherholt, that would be one way of kind of failing to prepare themselves correctly for the rebuild. But let's just talk about things that have happened already in this season. Do you think the Cardinals held back kind of their starting point for their rebuild by their decisions in 2025?
Well, they were stuck with Michaelis and Fetty for the most part, although they could have traded Fetty or they could have traded him last offseason, or they could have dumped either one of those guys at any time, except they were scared of their lack of starting pitching depth. And the only depth they had really, unless they were going to move Matz back to the rotation, the only depth they had was McGreevy. So I think they wanted to ride it out with Michaelis and Fetty. I don't think they believed, and I don't agree with them, but I don't think they believed they had anywhere to go. So but I look at the reason why I firmly believe it's a rebuild. Let's go down the list really quick. All right. First of all, did they sign any free, major league free agents? They signed one for $2 million. They went to Sonny Gray. They went to Nolan Arenado. They went to Wilson Contreras and basically wanted to get permission to trade them. And they said no. And then Arenado had a trade, but he turned it down. So if you're, if you're a rebuilding team, you go to your guys making the most money. You'd say, would you like to be traded? We will try to work on that for you. And they said no. You're rebuilding when your marketing pitch to the fans is we're going to give young players opportunities. It's the year of opportunity. That's what you say when you're rebuilding. What else is there? You bring in Chaim Bloom and he brings in other smart people and you're completely rebuilding your player development system and getting up to date with technology and facilities. Your evaluation of players has changed with the new regime. That's what a rebuilding team does, right? Because you're rebuilding, which means you're going to have a lot of really good young players coming up through the pipeline. Every telltale sign the Cardinals have put out there this year, it all indicates rebuilding. But I don't think they even made any bones about it. Actually, they wouldn't use the word.
And Bernie, I was telling somebody this morning that the Cardinals have not mentioned winning either. Right. Usually when Mo would make a trade, and granted they didn't add players, but usually you'd get hopefully we can surprise some people. You never got that from the Cardinals this year.
Not much.
For me, the way I look at it, because I've been a fan since the early 70s of the Cardinals, and they've never had a year like this where they've got a bunch of kids. But to be where they are at 61-61 in the middle of a rebuild, to me is a good thing, because we saw 30 years of Royals rebuilds. We have seen more than that. We've seen almost 40 years of Pirates rebuilds. We saw the Rangers rebuild, and it didn't go particularly well. We saw the Astros rebuild, and you know what? Their rebuild caused them to go out and have to trade for a guy like Brian McCann. They had to sign Josh Reddick. They had to sign Carlos Beltran. They had to trade for Justin Verlander. That's what their rebuild consisted of. They had like 4 guys from their drafts of Luno. They had because they already had Springer and Altuve when they got there. And so they added Correa and Bregman, basically, and Lance McCullers. That was their rebuild. So I don't think being 61-61, and if it winds up being that their worst year was a 71-win year, I don't think that's too painful of a rebuild.
No. And listen, they're going to have to move some people this offseason, but I think my hope is that they'll get a couple of young starting pitchers that are major league ready, unproven, but major league ready, that, Chaim Bloom and Rob Cerfolio and the pitching coordinator, Matt Pierpont, identify as like, this guy's got real potential. Let's get him in here and he'll be in the big league soon. But they're not going to be able to keep the team they have in place because it's just there's too many log jams. There's too many left-handed hitters. Their right-handed hitters this year, actually, as a group, have been terrible, especially the last 3 months. Their numbers against right-handed pitching are just deplorable. It's unbelievable. But they actually have a pretty good place to start. I think people are terrified. Some people are terrified of the word rebuild. I'm not. You know why? Because you alluded to it. I don't want to see more and more years of, we're not exactly all in. We're not, we're going to be careful, but we think we might be pretty good. Oh, and we're not rebuilding. I can't stand that they are stuck in the middle. And unless there was a regime change, they were going to stay stuck in the middle. Mm-hmm. They're not trying to win. They're not really trying to rebuild. They're trying to be decent or solid. The Cardinals should have much higher standards than that. And somebody might say right now, well, wait a minute, but you're saying they should rebuild. Yeah, because it's time to just start the thing over again and get back to what you did best.
And let's go back to
like draft and develop your own players and then supplement them.
Yeah. This is my opinion. There should never be a scenario where and I said this a few moments ago, where your general manager makes deals and says, hopefully we can surprise somebody. That
Right.
hope is not a good strategy.
No, that's right. And I, Cardinals fans are like, a lot of them are, at least from what they tell me, the ones I hear from are like really mad at me these days because I'm talking about this real rebuild all the time. And I've also made the point, which is factually correct. Bill DeWitt has owned the thing for 30 years now. This is the first time they've ever even talked about they got to rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
How many franchises go 3 decades without even entertaining the idea that maybe we have to rebuild? But now, is it their fault they let it slip? Sure it is. And I think we've all said that. But, I was looking up some stuff the other day, and I was almost laughing at the fact that, I don't think – I really don't think there's a pretty good percentage of Cardinals fans that like really don't get how fortunate everything has been over the long period of time. And I don't think they know what rebuilding is, or I don't think they know what it's like. Well, maybe the people, Randy, the people that were around like you in the 70s understand what that can look like. Not
Bernie,
rebuilding.
Here's the thing though. When I was a kid going to games in the 70s, they had Ted Simmons, they had Lou Brock, they had Keith Hernandez. They had Ted Sizemore. They rebuilding consisted of bringing up Gary Templeton. Reitz had been there forever. The Mad Hungarian was there. They never rebuilt because you had a bunch of the guys that were leftovers from the good 60s teams. I mean, Bob Gibson was there until 1975. Even then, there's never been anything like this.
No, and I just they did have star power, and look at all the star power they've had over the last 30 years. They've run out of stars, but I put a list together, which I won't read, but I put a list together for a video I did earlier this week, and I'm just going over the names, and it's absolutely ridiculous how many, not just great players, but star players, Hall of Fame caliber players, and over and over and over and over again, just one after another. And the Cardinals had just a phenomenal era that has tailed off over the last 3 years. From a postseason standpoint, it goes back a little longer than that, but they've had a really good team up until 2023 for the most part. And the other thing that the other thing, and I know we live in the short attention span culture. It's hopeless. I get it. But, the one thing is boy, they're going to go 3 years in a row without making the playoffs. I mean, this is unacceptable. Okay. You mean kind of like 1997, 98, 99 under Tony La Russa didn't make the playoffs? They had 2 losing seasons. And this was with a hand-picked roster that he put together with Walt Jocketty. I mean, the Cardinals one stretch made the playoffs one time in 4 years. And they had a big payroll. The Cardinals didn't make the playoffs in 16, 17, 18. Why do some people act like this has never happened before? It's actually happened twice before. So, but if you compare what the Cardinals fans have gone through in terms of pain and suffering, I just think there's been a loss of perspective. I think their frustration is legitimate. I think it's justified because this downturn didn't need to happen. The Cardinals lost touch of who they are and how they became successful. And that's on them. And it's pretty bad. But when you look at like some of these other markets, even markets that we associate with winning, it's just crazy what's happened around Major League Baseball, where some teams and some fan bases have gone through hell for decades, for 20 years at a time, where nothing happens. Yeah. Can we suck it up just a little bit, given the fact that basically from 2000 through 2022, this is one of the 3 best franchises in baseball, talking with the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Cardinals, and all the numbers bear that out. So can we suck it up a little bit?
Yeah. By the way, I want you guys, I'm laughing here.
Oh God.
No, can you imagine, and Bernie, you were so close to it when Tony was here. Can you imagine them going into a end of season meeting a year when they didn't make the playoffs, and Bill DeWitt or Walt saying, Yeah, Tony, we're going to change things up a little bit. We're going to draft and develop. We're going to go into a rebuild. Can you imagine Tony La Russa's reaction if somebody would have told him that he had to manage a bunch of young players and rebuild?
Yeah, I don't think that would have gone over well. Put it to you this way: as soon as Walter Haas, the owner of the A's, told Tony, "Look, the economic realities are pretty harsh. We're going to have to cut back and probably rebuild." And that's like maybe 5 minutes later, he said, "Well, can I leave?" So and that's when he came to the Cardinals.
That's a good point.
Makes sense.
Yeah. No, it's fat. No, I think the way I look at the rebuilding, I want the Cardinals to get back to what they've always done best when their franchise was really strong, drafting and developing their own. Let's say it's this rebuild. I'm going to call it the George Kissel rebuild. It's like a tribute to him. And the other thing is, I just want to see them get out of the middle. I just don't want to see all these half measure steps that'll make you a little better, but not anything close to what you would need to go and, win a bunch of postseason games. I hate the mediocre middle. And if it means starting fresh and rebuilding and doing it right, I think I'm willing to go through that, because I think they'll come out of it in much better shape than they are now. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And Bill DeWitt's not going to throw money around to go, because I see guys, even my friends that write columns and blogs or whatever, and they'll say, "Well, if you go get Eugenio Suarez, you go sign him, and go sign this guy, and go sign." Like all these free agents started. Is that right? You think Bill DeWitt's going to do that? And you think that's going to fix everything? And why would Suarez want to sign here when, it's not exactly a good park for right-handed hitters?
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
No. All right, Bernie, one last thing. This is
man.
Your last weekend. I know that you're working hard all the time. You're writing, you're putting together your videos, stuff like that. Are you waiting with bated breath for the new documentary, a Netflix sports series, America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys, about Jerry Jones? Are you waiting for that one to get started next week?
I actually am.
Well,
Because of my own career experience. I was in Dallas for the Dallas Morning News covering the Cowboys as the beat writer in the middle of a three newspaper war, which that used to actually happen. People would rush out and get the print edition. Dallas Fort Worth was insane. But anyway, so I covered Coach Landry in his final year. I covered him. They drafted Michael Irvin that year. I covered the takeover where Jerry Jones bought the team, and he brought in Jimmy Johnson. And I covered that team up until like the start of training camp. Then I came back to St. Louis to become the columnist. So I covered Jerry, got to know Jerry well. Covered Jimmy Johnson, got to know him well. I was there when they drafted, Troy Aikman and all those guys. I covered Herschel Walker, who lovingly always called me Barney. I made a joke about this in a column this week at STL Sports Central. Coach Landry, God bless his heart, he just couldn't pronounce my last name. I don't think you see last names like that in Dallas. Anyway, so he would call me Michaels. He'd say, "Hey, Michaels, how you doing?" and Herschel would call me Barney. So I said, maybe I ought to just change. If I'm going to stay in Dallas, I think I'm going to change my name to Barney Michaels. So anyway, I was in the middle of that whole takeover and the beginning of the Jerry Jones era. And I would have these incredible sessions with him. Like when Jerry Jones flew to Palm Beach, after he bought the team and they were going to vote for him to become the owner, it got delayed. But I was on Jerry's private jet with Jimmy Johnson. It was me and Jimmy and Jerry flying out there for Jerry to get approved as the owner. And, I had all these conversations. These guys took a liking to me. So I got all kinds of great stuff. I was breaking stories left and right. But, and also saving Jerry Jones from getting arrested in New Orleans one night. But that's another story for another day. But I was fascinated by the takeover, and everyone in Dallas hated him. And, I used to co-host a show on KRLD in Dallas with Brad Sham. And that final year of Tom Landry, the Cardinals, the Cowboys were really bad. They were 3-13. Steve Pallor was a quarterback. All they would do is hand the ball off to Marsh Falk. Herschel Walker, who I thought was really overrated, which is why Jimmy Johnson traded him and got that windfall. But KRLD for 2-3 hours straight, one phone call after another. I love old Tom, but it's time for Tom to just go retire that country club down there. And all said, Tom can't coach. Tom's kind of lost his marbles. I hate to say it, but the game's passed him by. At like 3 hours of that, right? Well, as soon as Jerry Jones fired Tom Landry on a golf course at Tommy Landry's country club down in Austin, after the same day that they finalized the sale, Monday night on KRLD, 2 days later, it was like, how dare this guy fire Coach Landry? Can you believe the way that after what this man has done for the Cowboys? You would treat a Texas legend, a war hero, the greatest coach in the history of the national football. You would treat this man like a yard dog. The same people that wanted him gone all year. So anyway, I went through that circus and I got to know those guys really, really, really well. And I got to know Nate Newton really, really well, and Michael Irvin really, really well. No, not well enough to hang out with them at the White House, if you remember that reference. Yeah.
That might have been fun. At that time.
But although I did go to a party at Ed Jones' house one time, Too Tall Jones. Yeah, that was a cultural experience that, frankly, may have ruined me for about a year or two. So anyway, some of the things I witnessed.
Hey, can you tell the story, if you're comfortable telling it, about the poll that you guys ran for who should play quarterback and your co-columnist, your fellow columnist?
Well, Skip Bayless, but he was at the Dallas Morning News. He was at the Dallas Times Herald. I was at Dallas Morning News. I actually got to know Skip really well and thought he was funny, and I liked him. And he didn't like Dallas Morning News people, but he's kind of like me. I don't know why. So anyway, it was Gary Hogaboom. Remember him?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And Danny White. And there was a big controversy about, well, who should be the starting quarterback? Because people were tired of Danny White because he wasn't Roger Staubach, kind of like Mark Bulger wasn't Kurt Warner, that type of deal, right?
Yeah.
So the Dallas Times Herald said, well, we're going to do a poll on this, and they publicized it. They had call-in lines, everything else. And so I said to Skip, well, what are you going to write a column about this? I'm not going to say anything. We work for competing newspapers. Oh yeah, I can't wait to dig into this. I said, well, which way are you going to go? He said, well, I'm waiting. I said, what are you waiting for? He said, I want to see what the fans say, and then I'm just going to go the opposite way. And I said, well, so in other words, you don't really have a preference. He said, no, I don't really have a preference. So he called his sports editor. He said, well, which way is the polling going? And to be honest, Randy and Rock, I can't remember. I think Hogaboom won the vote. I think he did, but I can't swear to that. But they told Skip, let's just say hypothetically, Hogaboom's winning. He's winning it, running away. Cowboys fans just don't like Danny White. Okay. So Skip said, okay, I'm going to write a column just like I'm going to rip fans for being so stupid and say Danny White's the guy. They got to stick with Danny White. So he did that, and he had absolutely no conviction whatsoever about that's what he really felt. He was just going to go the exact opposite of whatever the fans voted for. You like that?
Oh, that's fantastic. I love it.
You like that? Yeah. I mean,
crazy. And so Skip made millions of dollars doing that.
So something tells me he kept rolling with that mindset.
Yeah.
Hey, one time, Dallas Cowboys training camp out in Thousand Oaks was a pretty scary experience too. Jim Dent, who was what's the word, raconteur, also went to prison for a while. Jim Dent and I used to sit in the back of the dorms, like the media dorm, every Saturday night because we wanted to watch which players were sneaking in after violating curfew. We would see things like, there was a linebacker that, I kid you not, was like running to try to sneak back to his dorm, totally nude. I can probably imagine what experience he had just enjoyed, but I'm wondering, how do you lose your clothes? And so there was another one too. Then there was other guys that you would see them running back, and they would go from tree to tree, hiding behind trees, so they wouldn't get caught after curfew. And they would be wearing men's bikini briefs and all this stuff. And
Unreal.
and so we would write their names down and then taunt them the next day. Oh man, I'm going to turn you in and all that. They knew we weren't going to, but we like to rattle them. I mean, one of the craziest things ever. There was this one bar where everyone hung out, and I went in there one night. I was working late. I went in there one night. It might have been 12:30, quarter to 1 in the morning on a Friday night. And the DJ was playing a Beastie Boys song, "Fight for Your Right to Party," right?
Mm-hmm.
And Ted Schramm, who was about 68 years old then, you know who he was. Remember him,
Yeah.
Randy?
Yep.
Most powerful man in the NFL other than the commissioner.
Mm-hmm.
Ted Schramm's on the dance floor raising a glass, and he's shrieking, "You gotta fight for your right to party." And I'm like, I tell Jim Dent, I said, now I get it. Now I know what this whole Dallas Cowboys carnival is. Now I get it, right? I totally get it now. All right. Anyway.
That's amazing. Great stuff.
Yeah. All right. I'll shut up now, man. So you get me going, man. Uncle story time is one of my favorites.
Oh, it's the best. We love it.
All right,
Hey,
man.
thanks so much. This is awesome, and we want everybody to check out your video here at STL Sports Central and read your great work at stlsportscentral.com. Great to be teammates, man.
Love you, man. Love you too, Rock. Take care.
Thanks, Bernie. You have a good one, buddy.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Love you. See you.
I always forget.
Bernie.
I have not asked him nearly enough for story time of working with Skip Bayless. That's
it's great
that's
stuff.
something that is I don't know how I'm just leaving that on the table, but I am, and I'm a fool for doing it.
Yeah,
I'm a fool.
Epic stuff. Hey, we do have the Stifel Charity Classic coming up. It's presented by Compliance Solutions. It's back in the Lou, September 4th through 7th, and music sensation O.A.R. is now headlining a community concert on Friday after the first round of play. And if you want to go, well, we have free tickets for you right now here at STL Sports Central.
Yes, we do. Low and away question of the day. When Roy Halladay joined MLB history with his postseason no-hitter, which National League team did he no-hit?
Oh, I know that answer.
I think you would. We see them a couple times every year here in St. Louis. A little hint for everybody there. So jump into the chat right here, the YouTube chat on STL Sports Central. If you are subscribed, you're eligible to win these 2 tickets to O.A.R. Just put into the chat the answer to this question. First one to answer it, who hasn't already won some tickets over the last 2 weeks, gets those 2 tickets to see O.A.R. out on September 5th at the Stifel Charity Classic.
So one time, 1987, the Cardinals were going to move. And so we are covering the Cardinals they did a preseason game in Memphis against the Chiefs. And we're staying at the Opryland Hotel. And I think we went out for dinner or something. And we get back to the Opryland Hotel, and we're just hanging out in the bar. And the regular band, they disassemble. And I don't know if they were on break or if they left. And Steve Walsh, who's a St. Louis guy, hops up on stage, and he and another guy start jamming. And then 15, 20 minutes later, one of the great guitarists of all time, Joe Walsh, shows up, and he hops up on stage. And then after that, I guess George Thorogood and the Destroyers have been playing Memphis that night, and George Thorogood comes into the bar and a couple of his bandmates. So it's Steve Walsh, Joe Walsh, George Thorogood, and some of the Destroyers. And they just jammed for a couple of hours. It was awesome. And me and Bernie, I think, I don't know if Jim Thomas was there or not, but we had a great time at the Opryland Hotel in Memphis, Tennessee. It was great.
I can't handle that. Not only has that happened to you, but Bernie was there as well. And Bernie rode on the private jet.
Oh yeah,
with Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones.
Yeah, pretty cool.
I don't know how we haven't heard those stories. Congratulations, by the way, to Pudge Richardson, not Pudge Rodriguez, Pudge Richardson, who gets the answer there. The Cincinnati Reds.
Redlegs. Yeah, there you go.
Brandon Phillips grounded out to Ruiz to end it. And I felt he tried to screw Ruiz over by throwing the bat towards the ball. Interesting little inkling there.
Mm-hmm.
Pudge Richardson, you're going to see O.A.R. on September 5th out of the Stifel Charity Classic. I put it in the chat, but please text us your first name, last name, and email address to 314-590-3770, and we'll get you those 2 tickets.
And this could be Ben. We apologize because I was thinking Seattle Pilots also, and it wasn't. It wasn't like you and I thought. We thought it was the Pilots, but it wound up being. When I said I know this, I thought Seattle Pilots all the way.
What?
That's what this could be. Ben said he thought that it was the Seattle Pilots.
How could it be the Seattle Pilots? I'm pretty sure the Seattle Pilots existed 20 years before Roy Halladay was a major league pitcher.
Well, true.
Roughly
Okay,
20
right.
years.
Craig Lewis, Skip's brother Rick has the best Mexican restaurant in the
I've heard about
country?
this before. Yes.
Where is it?
Yeah, Rick Bayless. Mexican
Rick Bayless
restaurant.
used to run Casey. So I think that's a different Rick Bayless.
It is in Chicago. Jesus Christ.
Really? Okay. I'm always up for a good Mexican restaurant.
Oh, that's Rick Bayless? Oh, I watch this dude on Food Network all the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know if you ever watch Food Network any cooking
He kinda
shows.
does look like Skip.
But that's Skip Bayless. Get the hell out of
how
here.
about that? You learn something new every day.
Is he actually? He is the younger brother. Holy crap.
Huh.
I can't imagine having Skip Bayless as my older brother. That's insane.
Yeah, that would be great. So
That's incredible. I gotta well, not check out that restaurant, but I gotta check out some of his stuff.
So you got the Cards and the Jonkeys this weekend. That'll be fun. And then we've got soccer. We've got City at Chicago tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, they're in Bridgeview technically.
Yeah, Bridgeview. So they're called Chicago,
Okay,
right?
fine.
And then you've got the BMW Championship. Scheffler, let's get the latest for you before we go away here. Although you might be watching this on delay. So this will be what's called a spoiler.
Oh, okay.
Spoiler alert.
But it'd be after the fact. Couldn't be spoiler.
Scheffler, that's true. That's a good point. Scheffler hasn't even started yet.
Oh, okay.
So if you're live, you've got Robert McIntyre now at minus 11, 4-shot lead over Tommy Fleetwood, and a 6-shot lead over Sam Burns. Oberg, Aberg, Oberg is at minus 4 along with Scheffler.
I'm going to give the listeners a task next Friday. Early on in the interview, remind us to ask Bernie for another Jerry Jones era story.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like at this point we just need to get like one Jerry Jones era story from Bernie every week through football season, and as we head into it, just remind us next week to ask him another Jerry Jones story, because Jerry Jones private jet, he's got to have more than one.
Yeah,
got to have more than one story from that.
I like it a lot. Sounds good. I am out on Monday and Tuesday. We'll be back on Wednesday. So do you know who you're going to be with on Monday? I guess B-Shape will be here on Tuesday with you.
Not sure yet on Monday though.
Okay,
we'll see.
And I'll check in.
Where you at?
Sure. Just doing some run around errands and stuff like that.
Nicely done.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. Wilson got us going here on STL Sport. Are we on the air technically? I say that Wilson got us on the air. I don't know.
We can say we're live.
Okay, yeah. Wilson got us going live here on the stream.
There you go.
Got us going.
Nice.
He got us streaming here at STL Sports Central. Don't forget to check out stlsportscentral.com. Subscribe to this channel, the YouTube channel. Subscribe to our newsletter, and follow us on all the socials too. Get notified by following us and making sure that you get notifications at STL Sports Central. We appreciate you being a part of the show. Thank you very much for all of your chatting. We do appreciate that. Love to communicate with y'all, and we will see you. I'll see you on Wednesday, but Matthew will see you on Monday. Have a great weekend.